Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning to Sir Azam. We are from Group 5. My name is Amirul Hakim bin Shamal Juhaidi and my group members are Ahmad Iskandar, Abdul Fattah and Muhammad Islam. We are doing the company called Global Crossing. I'll start ahead with the introduction. The content that we have is the first one introduction, the second one is fraud in global crossing, and the third one is the pressures, opportunities, and rationalization of those perpetrating the fraud. And the fourth one are consequences or penalty imposed, and the last one is conclusion. I'll start with the introduction first. Iskandar, introduction, please. Okay, introduction. The first one is accounting fraud is the intentional manipulation of money just to make the financial statement that doesn't look good, then turn it into a good financial statement. To make this happen, it involves an accountant, an employee, or the company itself, and that will affect the shareholders and investors. And the second one is a company will falsify their financial statement with the intention later then the firm will adjust or revise the financial statements later on. As a consequences of the mistakes, no fraud were done at the moment, assuming that the CEO of a public listed company, while he or she is aware that they are making a false statement that could lead them to commit a fraud regarding of their own company. And the third one is if a firm of the state or falsify their profit or revenue, that is when accounting fraud were done. For instance, a company will claim at some point added up manufacturing financial gain on their financial statements that will point out that they are making a profit. But sadly, the company is actually at loss. And the last one is some other method of accounting fraud were done is when a company does not record what they are doing with their money or expense. The money that the company are making of their revenue is uncontrolled, and on the financial statement, the costs are understated. And I'll continue with the terms cook the book. Cook the book means that it used to explain that the dishonest activities performed by the companies for fabricate their money statements and thus as a way to distort the financial accounts of the firm deliberately for avoiding the tax payments or counseling of the facts so that the financial statements or the revenue of the corporate looks higher than the particular situation prevailing. And the second one is manipulation. To some extent, is completed by very each company to balance the budget and to make sure continuation funding to the corporate from investors. For example, company will boost their revenue by focusing a lot on credit sales or book for a total payment as current sales once services or product offered already been provided over a year ago. Other than that, there is so many companies that claim that they have non-occurring expense. It is a one-time price that are thought of exceptional events and they are probably not going to happen once more. I'll pass to Ahmad Iskandar for the next one.
So my name is Ahmad Iskandar. I will present about the fraud happened in global crossing. So for first, is the negligence of the auditors. The auditor having poor adequacy in providing professional opinion regarding global crossing financial statement and also internal controls. In the case of global crossing, the auditors shows that he is not responsible enough in preparing and presenting their financial statement fair and accurate, and the auditors are lack of due professional care. So for second is misstatement of revenue records. first, the company record their revenue in full since the beginning of the company. Means that in the year of 2001, Global Crossing experienced a down in their business operations. Also, in that particular year, they decided to record their revenue in full since the beginning of the company, as opposed to proportionally over its life. This shows that the report was without doubt being misstated. The proper record of revenue should not include the revenue they earned in the past. Second, involving Quest Communication International Incorporate. For this, Sing and Quest Communication, they trade revenue, which means that the Quest record the similar value amount, and Global Crossing sold an amount of 100 million US dollars of facilities. But this fraud revenue transaction has been caught as Quest didn't record this exchange as a deal, and this revenue transaction was not in their sales record, whereas Global Crossing record the transaction as a sales revenue. So for third fraud is conflict of interest. The executive vice president for finance advised the company to fund his son's project. The executive vice president is known as Joseph Ferron. He suggests that the company to fund his son's project, but later on, he given sorry he this kind of action considered as conflict of interest. So for second, the founder and upper executive sold off shares of the company. Uh, in 2002, before the bankruptcy, the the founder and upper executive sold off share of the company without the known of the public. So next slide is the whistleblower of the company. His name is Roy Olofsson. He is a former vice president of finance for Global Crossing. His duty in the company in that time is supervising financial reports. As vice president of Global, he exposed the misstatement made by the company, which is illegal in terms of law and regulation. As he is one of the executive in the company, he started to worry and anxious about the company's future and decided to be whistleblower of the company. He also concerned about the circular transaction, which is also known as swap issue of a company. He decided to stop the swap issue by issuing a charge company before it is too late. So next, I will pass to Abdul to present.
Okay, starting with the part three, which is about the pressure, opportunity, rationalization of those preparating of the fraud. Okay, I will start with a little bit of introduction. What is the fraudulent financial reporting? Okay, fraudulent financial reporting is an intentional misstatement or omission in order to manipulate, to deceive, and also to, okay, there are three elements that are common to a fraud. Those pressure, and then opportunity, and the last one is rationalization. Okay, the first one is about the pressure. The pressure behind the pressure is the inspiration behind the crime. One of the pressure is the concern about the share prices. They're afraid that the share price will go down and then weakening their financial result. And they will call into a question to the company about the company abilities to repay its debt. And then this is resulting in the management taking advantage of accounting practices such as booking fixed rate profit for capacity. Global crossing, global crossing aim to increase market confidence and to achieve a higher market share and better expectation by showing a better but a fake result. Okay, next is by allegedly manipulating its finance, global crossing able to cover its vital loss and thereby deceive shareholder from the truth. Global economic growth at that time slowed down as the other company enter the market. And then the internet usage at that time did not rise as rapidly as first anticipated. So global crossing was under a lot of situational pressure. Okay, we move to the next one. Next, where the pressure was present, and then the opportunities came. So they saw a chance to commit a fraud. As for global crossing, the firm allegedly used capacity swap between itself and the other company. Capacity swap is a technique that used to exercise the legal exchange of telecommunication right between provider to justify the recording of new revenue without even changing hands with any cash, good or services. This method are often carried out. They are creating the illusion of productive activity. Capacity swap are used to fill the gap in their network and provide competitor with bandwidth. This is technically legal, but critics claim it was done to inflate income and did not serve a valid purpose. Okay, next, the other factor, is the poor organization structure of the company and also the weak of the internal control. As far as we know, Global Closing is a new established company. They are having difficulty to make a mechanism to minimize the possibility of any fraud or corruption from happen. This fraud happen as there is no one to supervise them. Them is their top management. So when there is no one to survive them, their top management will do whatever they want. So because this, their upper executive managed to create an illusion that they generated some income in relation to their financial statement, but in reality, the company struggling with to pay them. Okay, the last point of opportunity is the conflict of interest. The conflict of interest occur when a number of high executive in global crossing, including its founder Gary Winnick, sold off the share of the company just before the company declared. This called dealing inside trading. It's often happen when the privileged people sell off share based on knowledge and that has not been made in the public. Okay, for the last point, which is rationalization. Okay, rationalization is a last stage of fraud where when the person who commit the fraud are able to explain the crime in a way that is reasonable. They saw himself as the victim of the circumstances. As for in the global crossing case, the employee involved are highly rationalized in action. As they thought that by doing this, they can solve that this is the only way to save the company from bankruptcy and also to to solve the company declining revenue and believe that similar aggressive accounting strategies were used by other companies. Okay, I will pass to the next presenter, Izlan Hakim.
Okay, next we move to the consequence, effect, penalty imposed for the first is auditor. Audit are intended to provide professional opinion on the adequacy of representation, internal control or operating practice of a company financial statement, or compliance with law or regulation. One of four opinion is submitted to the auditor report, unqualified, legible, adverse and disclaimer of opinion. Global Crossing Limited is an example of what may occur when they are failure to properly audit financial statement and internal control. Global Crossing was a television corporation with the broad aspiration to quickly broaden its television service worldwide. In 2001, which market activities looking down, the deal was introduced. Global Crossing start reporting revenue for long term in the contract in full, rather to proportionately about its revenue. Most what happened at Global Crossing went against the target to the audit. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair reporting of financial statement in compliance with applicable accounting standard as specified in auditor report. Next is the company. Global Crossing, a multinational telecommunication firm, thus market cap on exceeding that the General Motor Corporation. As its self-protection from creditor, Global Crossing announced that it had agreed to sell a majority stake in the company to two Asian firms for 750 million. The deal, which must be accepted in New York by a federal bankruptcy court, will place the company under the ownership of Utison Wapua Ltd, based in Hong Kong and Singapore Technologies Telemedia. Global Crossing, which the two Asian company must be approved by creditor, if clear, according to a company spokesperson. It will make the stock of current shareholder worthless. Trading in the stock of company was suspended after falling by more than 40% by 21 cents to 30 cents. The firm has 22.4 billion in asset and 12.4 billion in debt, according to bankruptcy paper filed by Global Crossing. The company, which for the past two quarters has declined sales, was not bringing in enough money to pay interest payment. Next slide. Okay, next we move to the management. The creditor at Global Crossing may be blessed to get pennies on the dollar. Most employer has deleted vital portion of their 401k account. And everyone who still owns share has a stock that closed at 7 cents. Shareholder, including Mr. Winnick, who has 75% of his original holding, as tech now worth just 5 million. Global Crossing, which runs a global fiber optic network for transmitting phone call and internet data, was a Wall Street favorite during the internet boom. Next is the other parties, the supplier. There is conflict Global Crossing and Swift. How much longer will Rapid postpone with switching network service to a new provider from Global Crossing? Not much longer, right? It would be shocking if Swift were not in urgent talk with alternative provider. Today, with the news that Global Crossing is seeking to reduce its US payroll, which a voluntary redundancy package, because there is now a growing possibility that Swift customer will no longer be happy with La Hope quality. I will start to worry about loss of key staff and continuity of service. Global Crossing today introduced a system that provides benefit to United States based worker who voluntarily leave the payroll on the organization as part of an overall initiative to reduce expenses. The company said that the overall number of individuals living under the initiative will be determined by the needs of individual group within the company and the influence of other measures to minimize expenses. Last one is the shareholder. Share of Tycoon International Ltd fell after the company, the world's largest maker of undersea fiber optic cable, was sued by Global Crossing, which accused it of the stealing trade secret. Tyco dropped a share of $3.8125 to $42.50, and Global Crossing fell a share of $4.39 to $23.625. In 1998, Tycoon submarine system was employed by Global Crossing, a manufacturer that operator of underwater fiber optic system to develop a fiber optic network creating South America. The lawsuit could imply delay in revenue recognition and may have some impact on contract. Global Crossing is working on, say, Eric Melau, an Argus research analyst, Tycoon, based in Bermuda and working from a sector, say that its undersea fiber optic unit was seeking to avoid paying for working performed by Global Crossing. Last point, the suit comes as Tyco is preparing to sell stock in the unit. Nike call Tycom to the public. According to the Global Crossing, based in Hamilton, Bermuda, Tycoon sought to use the knowledge to develop its own business design, development, and operation of undersea network. Okay, I will pass to the last conclusion, Amirul.
I'll continue with the conclusion. The first one, in conclusion, fraud can lead to being unemployed, bankruptcy, and many other things that is non-beneficial to an employee or an auditor in a company. But usually, fraud happen because of selfish mechanism that can damage the company. The main intention in perpetrate fraud is to seek for promotion, pay rise, or to achieve their revenue target in a wrong way that go against laws and regulations. If there are enough proof in fraud, the company may suffer losses and the company will run into liquidation. And the second one is, although The auditor cannot be the one to blame and are not held responsible if there is such thing as fraud and errors of the financial statements in a specific company, but an auditors but should be accurate and auditors should be accordance with the set of profession which is due professional care. Auditor's job is to providing audit report by reviewing and give opinion about the company's financial statements and internal controls. Auditors also have professional attitude in doing their jobs and avoid errors as much as possible. And the last one from this case of fraud, what we can do is to learn the mistakes done by the company and implement risk minimization techniques to prevent fraud in the future. As a specialist auditor, the job is to help client and implement the best controls. To avoid such thing as fraud, management in the company must train their employees with the right procedure and the upper executive must be an example to the employees by showing a good example and guidance. They also must have stricter governance to prevent accounting scandals from happening towards the future. That is all from us. Thank you so much.